Hello and welcome to Freedom Watch, your daily dose of raw liberty, streaming online at foxnews.com. I'm your host, Judge Andrew Napolitano, here defending freedom, defending your natural rights, and defending your right to have a government that stays within the confines of the Constitution. Here in America, we've seen an ever-expanding government slowly encroaching on our personal freedoms, our liberties, and the free market. What is happening to the freedoms of our neighbors to the north in Canada? They're one of our closest allies, one of our biggest trading partners, the country we share the largest land border with, but the country we seem to hear the least about. There's rarely any media coverage of Canada, and if you don't go out of your way to educate yourself about that great country, you wouldn't know of the growing popularity of some of the same ideals so many of us espouse here. Freedom to live our lives from the government and the power to run the free market in our economy. The website of the Libertarian Party of Canada reminds Canadians that the government should act only as our servant and never as our master. But does the government in Canada believe that? Joining me now is Dennis Young, the leader of the Libertarian Party of Canada. Dennis, welcome to Freedom Watch.
Thanks, Andrew.
Does the government in Canada stay within the confines of the Constitution, or is that a silly question?
It absolutely does not stay within the confines of the Constitution. And also, Mr. Harper, who's the Prime Minister of Canada, has recently made direct speeches against libertarianism and freedom. Those types of speeches have been, traditionally delivered by terrible people. So
the problems we have in the U.S. Are in a couple of categories. We have states, you have provinces.
Right.
Our states have certain rights that are sovereign, we believe, and the Constitution says the federal government can't interfere with those rights. We also have natural rights, which every human has, and those natural rights are protected by the Constitution. But we have a federal government that takes power away from the states and turns local issues into national and federal issues. And we have a federal government that takes freedom away from individuals in defiance of its obligation to uphold the Constitution. Do Canadians suffer from the same type of oppressive central government?
Yes, we do. Matter and point is the right of each province in this country has a right over its own resources. That means oil. Now, the federal government has ignored that part of the Constitution and it basically controls our oil industry through their central power.
Does the federal government in Canada punish speech, restrict travel, violate privacy? Does it do the types of things that the federal government in the United States has done through abominable legislation enacted after 9/11 called the Patriot Act? Is there any similar behavior from the central government in Canada?
Sure, we have human rights commissions, and you may know of the Ezra Levant case. He printed the Muslim cartoons,
right?
That are pretty popular, and he was hauled before a human rights commission. Now, a human rights commission that wants to stomp on free speech, I think it's a bit of a misnomer.
Wow. So this is some sort of a court established pursuant to Canadian law, which makes you what? Justify or explain how you used your freedom of speech?
That's right. All it takes is one complaint, and you can be hauled before this commission. I don't see anything really, court-like about it. You're hauled before a couple of thugs, and to say that and they basically tell you will not offend people.
And what are the consequences if you tell them to go take a hike and say that I have the right to say whatever I want, and people have a right not to listen to me if they don't like what I say?
Well, they can fine you. And I'm not sure that I don't know if they have the right to imprison you, but I'm sure we'll get there.
How about the free market? I mean, in the United States of America, notwithstanding clauses in our Constitution which were intended to guarantee the free market, which were intended to keep the government out of the individual or group decisions to buy or sell a product, a great deal of our free market is regulated by the federal government. A friend of mine who is the CEO of one of the ninth largest bank holding company in the U.S. has estimated that between 75 and 80% of the banking industry is totally regulated by the federal government, meaning you need their permission before you can do something in that area of behavior. Do Canadians suffer from the same loss of freedom in the marketplace?
Oh, sure. The government basically owns everything, or thinks it does, and permits people to act, and not the other way around. I don't think there's, like this NAFTA. It's a huge document. A free trade agreement shouldn't even be on paper if it's true free trade.
It shouldn't be necessary to guarantee a right that we all have and that we all consider obvious, is basically
Exactly.
what
So,
you mean.
All governments do is prohibit. They don't allow or permit.
In America, a lot of my libertarian friends agree with me when I say we don't have a two-party system. We have a one-party system. It's the big government party. There's a Republican version that assaults civil liberties and likes war. There's a Democratic version that assaults commercial liberties and likes taxes. But otherwise, they basically like power taken from the states and liberty taken from individuals, and all of this centralized in their big government machinery in Washington. Do you suffer from the same attitude and the same values in Canada?
Oh, absolutely. There's only one party in Canada, and that's the big government party, other than the Libertarian Party. But, the left in the U.S., I notice, is really pounding the war drums lately. So, with Bush, we had war in two countries from the U.S., and with Obama, he may even expand the war in Afghanistan by the sounds of it.
God, I thought this was change you can believe in down here in the States. It's merely a continuation of the same policies under a different name. Dennis Young, good luck to you up north. Thanks very much for joining us on Freedom Watch.
Thank you.